They decided to get married, and the entire village gathered for their celebration. On the day of their wedding, there was music, laughter, and dancing all through the hills. Njoroge played his natiti for Wanjiru, and the notes he played carried the love he felt into the very air. As they danced under the blue African sky, it seemed like nothing in the world could ever go wrong. But in life, as Njoroge would soon learn, joy and sorrow are often intertwined. While Wanjiru danced joyfully through the fields of yams and sugarcane, tragedy struck. A snake hidden among the tall grass bit her on the ankle. The sharp pain caused her to stumble and fall. The snake's venom worked quickly, and by the time anyone noticed, it was too late. Wanjiru collapsed, her life slipping away as she lay on the earth. In the heart of the Kikuyu land, among the rolling hills and the whispering forests, there lived a young man named Njoroge. Njoroge was no ordinary man. From a young age, he discovered his gift for music. Whenever he played his nyatiti, a traditional stringed instrument, the world seemed to pause and listen. The trees swayed gently to his tunes. The birds stopped their songs to hear him, and even the wind calmed down, enchanted by his melodies. His music was known far and wide for bringing peace to troubled hearts and joy to those who were filled with sorrow. One bright afternoon, while Njoroge was wandering through the fields of maize and banana plants, he spotted a young woman who took his breath away. Her name was Wanjiru, and her beauty was unmatched. Her long braided hair glistened in the sunlight, and her laughter was like the sweet sound of a bird singing at dawn. She moved with such grace that the earth seemed to dance beneath her feet. Njoroge was captivated. He knew instantly that he had found the one his heart longed for. Without hesitation, he approached her and they began to talk. As they spoke, they found they shared much in common. Both loved the land, both appreciated the simplicity of village life, and both believed in the power of love. It didn't take long for Njoroge to realize he was deeply in love with Wanjiru, and to his delight she felt the same. They decided to get married, and the entire village gathered for their celebration. On the day of their wedding, there was music, laughter, and dancing all through the hills. Njoroge played his natiti for Wanjiru, and the notes he played carried the love he felt into the very air. As they danced under the blue African sky, it seemed like nothing in the world could ever go wrong. But in life, as Njoroge would soon learn, joy and sorrow are often intertwined. While Wanjiru danced joyfully through the fields of yams and sugarcane, tragedy struck. A snake hidden among the tall grass bit her on the ankle. The sharp pain caused her to stumble and fall. The snake's venom worked quickly, and by the time anyone noticed, it was too late. Wanjiru collapsed, her life slipping away as she lay on the earth. Njoroge rushed to her side, calling her name, his heart pounding with fear. But as he held her, he could feel her spirit leaving this world. The village healer came, but there was nothing that could be done. Wanjiru was gone. Njoroge was crushed. His heart felt like it had shattered into a million pieces. He called out to Ngai, the god who lived on Mount Kirinyaga, or rather Mount Kenya, pleading for Wanjiru to be returned to him. But the skies remained silent. His grief was so deep that he wandered the land aimlessly, playing mournful songs on his nyatiti. The music that once brought joy now carried only sorrow. The animals of the forest will gather around him, the birds silent in the trees, and even the river seemed to flow more slowly, moved by the sadness in his songs. No matter how beautiful his music, Wanjiru did not return. Days turned into weeks, and Njoroge could no longer bear the pain of living without her. His love was so strong that he made a decision no one had dared to make before. He will journey to the land of the dead, a place known as the Underworld, ruled by Mwene Nyaga, the Lord of the Spirits. There he would plead for Wanjiru's return. It was said that no living soul could make such a journey and survive. But Njoroge's heart was full of hope, and his love for Wanjiru gave him the strength to try. With nothing but his nyatiti and his courage, Njoroge set out on the most dangerous journey of his life. The path to the underworld was dark and full of peril. He had to cross rivers where the spirits of the dead floated endlessly, their voices like a sad wind. The forests were filled with shadows and strange creatures that moved in the darkness, but Njoroge pressed on, driven by his love for Wanjiru. At last, Njoroge arrived at the gates of the underworld, a place known to the Kikuyu as Kirere, the land of the silence. The gates were guarded by a fearsome creature, a giant black leopard named Chui, whose growl echoed through the land of the spirits. Chui was fierce, and no mortal had ever passed through its claws, but Njoroge had something stronger than fear. He had his music. With a steady hand, Njoroge lifted his nyatiti and began to play. The sound of his melody floated through the air, soft and soothing. The growl of the leopard ceased, and its fierce eyes softened. For the first time, Chui lay down, allowing Njoroge to pass through the gates unharmed. Njoroge ventured deeper into the underworld, where the air was thick and the light barely pierced the darkness. His music echoed through the halls of the dead, reaching the ears of Nyaga, the ruler of the spirits, and his queen Washera. Intrigued by the beauty of the sound, they summoned Njoroge to stand before them. When Njoroge stood before Nyaga and Washera, he bowed his head in respect and told them of his great love for Wanjiru. He spoke of how they had been torn apart on the day of their wedding and how he could not live without her. His words were filled with sorrow, and the sadness in his heart could be felt in every note of his music. Nyaga, known for his wisdom and fairness, listened carefully. Washera, moved by the beauty of Njoroge's music and the sadness of his story, whispered to her husband, asking him to consider Njoroge's plea. After a long silence, Nyaga spoke. He agreed to let Wanjiru return to the land of the living, but there was one condition. Njoroge must lead her out of the underworld, but he could not look back at her until they both reached the surface. If he turned around too soon, Wanjiru would be lost forever. Njoroge, filled with hope, agreed. He thanked Nyaga and Washera, and soon Wanjiru appeared, her spirit glowing softly in the dim light. Njoroge's heart leapt with joy, but he remembered the warning. Without looking back, he began the long journey back to the surface, knowing that Wanjiru was following behind him. The path was long and steep, and the air grew colder with each step. Njoroge could hear Wanjiru's soft footsteps behind him, but the urge to turn and see her face was overwhelming. Doubts crept into his mind. What if she wasn't really there? What if it was all a trick? His heart pounded, and every step felt like a challenge. As they neared the entrance to the living world, the sunlight began to shine ahead, warm and bright. Njoroge could feel its heat on his face, and he knew they were almost free. But the doubt continued to gnaw at him. What if something had happened to Wanjiru? What if she wasn't following him anymore? Just as they reached the final step out of the underworld, Njoroge couldn't resist any longer. He turned around, eager to see Wanjiru's face. For a brief moment, their eyes met. She smiled at him, her face glowing with love, but then, as quickly as she had appeared, Wanjiru began to fade away. Njoroge reached out for her, his heart breaking all over again, but it was too late. Wanjiru disappeared into the shadows of Kirere, lost forever to the world of the living. Njoroge stood frozen in despair, his heart shattered. He had come so close to saving her, but now Wanjiru was gone, this time forever. Njoroge returned to his village, but he was never the same. His music, once filled with joy and love, now carried the weight of his sorrow. The people of the village would gather to listen, moved by the sadness in his songs, and though the music was beautiful, it was filled with the grief of a man who had loved deeply and lost everything. And so, the story of Njoroge and Wanjiru became a tale passed down through the generations, a reminder of the power of love and the pain of loss. whispered among the Kikuyu people as they gathered by the fires at night, under the same sky that had once witnessed their love. Well, that is it for now. I'll be seeing you soon with more content and more stories like this one. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Tell a friend to tell a friend. It is me, as always, your narrator, Dave Humble. Bye-bye.